everyone that possibly can suit up, get into the game, and do what we have to do, because these are perilous times for the nation. We have never been in a position like this before. We never have in all our history. There has never been a moment in time where you could look at the President of the United States and wonder about his allegiances and wonder who he is. Who is this man? And that's what we have today. That is the essence of the beginning of the problem. But the problem is a lot bigger than that. It's like a big onion. Once we start to peel it back, you're going to discover, if you don't know already, that many of the conspiracy theories out there are in fact fact. We have recorded documentation. By the way, why would the President of the United States, as his very first move, why would he seal his records? Why would he do that? So my question then becomes, right on, what is it that he's hiding? Is he hiding the fact that Occidental College did not graduate him? That he did not make the mark necessary for entrance into Columbia University? Is that what he's hiding? Is Columbia University hiding the fact that they allowed him in spite of the fact that they would turn down thousands of other people who were qualified to come into the university but did not have appended to their body or their person a $10 million grant from the Saudi Arabians, the royal family? Mr. Obama, if you don't know this, Mr. Obama was bought and paid for by oil money. Now, I'm saying it right up front, so you may as well know where this is going. But I want you to understand something. For those of you who do not know who I am, I have 45 years of service to America. 45 years of service to America. And it's a little longer than most get the privilege of being in, but I happen to have been in a position of being a special person for China. I own 286 schools. I lied? Wait a minute. As of Monday, we just negotiated for 4 more. So we now have 290 schools, relationships across China with, of course, Chinese people, Chinese investors. You cannot go in, whether you're General Motors or you're Jim Garrow, you cannot go into China and suddenly become the owner of a company. Impossible. You cannot do it. In fact, you must go in as a minor partner. And so I've had the great privilege of going in and partnering with many of the elite of Chinese society. In fact, certain members of the Central Committee of the Communist Party count me as a partner in schools, in business. Hu Jintao, in fact, thought so much of our abilities as educators to bring his niece to our school. And I hate to say it, but unlike some other people in the world, I've had to sit across the table and negotiate the entrance of the niece of Hu Jintao, the then president of the country, into one of our schools. Now, he came as the honored uncle because her father had died. So I ended up sitting there going, is this really who I think it is? Is this like really? Yeah. So quite the honor. Now, Xi Jinping, I met him when he was the Communist Party secretary for Guilin region in China. He's now the president of China. His daughter became a student in early childhood education. So learning English early on. By the way, how's the sound? Can you hear me? Yes. Oh, good. I'm yelling. I usually speak very softly, but I understand the competition. Yep. So Xi Jinping's daughter came early to our schools. And of course, you only go to the place, if you can afford it, and you have the guanxi. It's a word you need to understand about Chinese society. Chinese people believe in relationship. And implicit in it is a kind of an understanding of money coming under the table at some point in time. Payback for people. Oh, payback. I'm sorry, that's Valerie Jarrett. But you understand the concept, yes? Yeah, the idea that sometimes money flows to those people who have a relationship. And it's expected that if I do you a favor at some point in time, you will, through reciprocity, you'll pay me back. Because that's the way honorable Chinese do it. There's an expectation that if something's been given to you by someone, someone's done a favor for you, that you will in fact pay it back. Now that put me in a very interesting position because as I opened more and more schools in China, oh, wait a minute, why would I be allowed to go and open schools in China? Why? Why would I have the audacity to hope that I would be able to go to China and open schools? Well, let me tell you about my background. I was a college president in Toronto. I was placed there to do something, and you'll find out about a little bit more about that in a minute. But I was placed there to do a particular task. But as president, we had a large number of Chinese students. You'll never guess how many of the Chinese students were failing in their grades. How many do you think were failing? Oh, none. Somebody told you about this, didn't they? Somebody warned you in advance what I was going to say? You're sure? Okay, so how many of the Chinese do you think held the #1 position in their field of endeavor? Yeah, all of them. #1, #2, maybe #3, but that would be a total dishonor to their family if they were 3rd in the pecking order. But you know, not only are they intelligent, but they have a work ethic that would make you cry. And I mean, they don't go out and socialize. They don't go out for teams. I know that's part of the social experiment and the experience in school, but frankly, they are nose to the grindstone. They are focused on why they're there, and that's to get an education. But let me ask you a question. Why do you think sending Chinese communist children to an American university does not give them pause for 1 minute to worry about the kinds of ethics and ideologies that will be passed on to their children at an American university? What do you think they're confident of?
It's communist.
Whoa, somebody's been reading my stuff. They understand, yeah, I'm totally agreeing. They are in fact confident that there will be no disparity between belief systems, that their children will be taught to be communists while at American universities. They may not call it communists, but basically the undertone is all about socialism, but based in Marxism. So that's what they will receive. Now, I had an argument with a gentleman at Oral Roberts University. I went there to do a presentation to the president, vice president, the board of directors, the board of governors. And what I was asked to do was come and talk about English language teaching in China, English as a second language, so that they could have a program, because they had one of these programs, you know, like a 2-year program, then going into a 4-year program, and a degree program. They wanted to know how it was that I could run a 5-day program and have our teachers know more about teaching English in 5 days than their teachers were learning in 4 years. Now, I'll tell you how good our program was. It was good enough for the dean of the Faculty of Education at Oral Roberts University to steal our material, and as a result, he got fired. They do have standards, but he tried to steal it, and I'm not mentioning his name, and I'm not trying to run down Oral Roberts University because I think it's a wonderful place. I mean, I've never gone to a place where you come through the front gate and there's these 2 hands and they're praying. Very, very different. What a representation of who they believe they're working with and for, and who they can turn to. And I mean, that's a great thing for students to come in to see, that the ultimate authority is God. And seeking of wisdom, this is, I'm reading something here, but if you're seeking wisdom, that wisdom's coming from God. And wisdom, of course, is the application of knowledge. Oh, let me ask you. You don't have to show your hands because I don't want you to feel foolish. How many of you people have been dumb enough, and I mean dumb as a stump, how many people here have been dumb enough to ask God for wisdom? Yeah. And you know what you just did? You just heaped upon yourself a lot of trouble, a heap of trouble. Because wisdom is earned and learned in the crucible of adversity. You knew that? That's where it's coming. That's where you're going to get this stuff, this wisdom stuff. So, I mean, we got books about that. Don't we have isn't there a whole book? I know it's a song, but Song of Solomon, but you know, isn't it about wisdom? And by the way, while you're getting something, get wisdom, right? While you're getting understanding, get wisdom. So there's a difference between understanding and wisdom. Let me tell you what the Chinese know about wisdom. what they know about understanding, and they know the difference between them and knowledge. They know this full well. They have 5,000 years of tradition, a history way, way back, and they learned some things over the course of time. Oh, by the way, did you know that Israel is an eastern place? It's called the Middle East. Why? Because they're Eastern in their way of thinking. Did you know the Scripture always takes an Eastern slant? Did you know that? Did you know that we're Western, which is like we're kind of different? We look at things a little bit different, but the Eastern way of things, is very different. That's why there's a reference to a manager. And this manager is praised as being wise. And the reason he's wise in the eyes of God, who recorded this in Scripture, is because he, in his time of power, went out to all his buddies that he was working with and he paid them off. He gave them money. And God says this is a wise man, because in the day of his trouble, he knows where to go for help. But isn't that bribery? Come on. I'm not asking for an amen, but isn't that bribery? Or is that good preparation, knowing full well that there will become a time when you will no longer be in a position of power? And that happens to all of us. Have you noticed that? One day you're in a position of influence, and the next day you're down, you're lower. So let's remember that we need people, and we can build relationship all across the world even. Now let me talk to you about a little man named Obama. Mr. Obama is using a different method, but basically the same notion. That of spreading money around and making sure that people owe lots of money, trillions of dollars, making sure that people owe him, because one day he's going to collect. The difference here is that in the example that's given in Scripture, this is not doing something that is unlawful. There's a difference. Mr. Obama, of course, expects that unlawful activity will take place if needed, in support of him. I asked somebody, we had a little conversation, and I said to this gentleman, I said, you wouldn't lie, would you? In your job? You wouldn't lie, would you, in your job? And we were talking about people who work for funny agencies and, things with initials and stuff in the government. But you would never lie, would you, for your country? Would there be an expectation that you would do that? I'm thinking of some guys who had to get let down on baskets. Do you remember these guys over the wall of a city? And in fact, the woman who saved them, her whole family was saved as a result of her actions, because she recognized something about those two. I'm going to use the word, sorry, and I'm not implying anything here about any of you folks. But in Scripture it's recorded as spies. Spies. Can you imagine that? And it was a praiseworthy thing in Scripture. These spies were Israelites, and they were there spying to find out where the defensive weaknesses were, but also where the strengths were, so that Israel would be equipped with information in order to move forward and to safeguard their own people. And I want you to know there are spies all over the world working in the interests of the United States. And they work for alphabet agencies. But if you read the paper, you'll find out that the papers basically say that people who work in those positions with those alphabet agencies are evil, are negative, are not to be trusted. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've met people who have lost their lives in service to America. They might get a star on a wall, you'll never know their names. Patriots. What you're doing here is worthy for them and their sacrifice. So, I'm going to tip my hat to you, and that's the only time I'm tipping my hat tonight. But I get emotional when I think about those folks, because I know so many. And I know 3 men who recently in China lost their lives. And they lost their lives because they were basically put in a position where their service to the country and the safeguarding of America was compromised by the man in the White House. One of them was found floating in Discovery Bay, which is Lantau Island, Hong Kong. The other one was sitting in his car. He had a bullet in the back, 2 bullets in the back of his head in the 3rd ring road of Beijing. and the other one was sitting in a car in an area called Sheko, which is a very white district of Shenzhen, China, just across the border from Hong Kong. All of those died in the service of America. Wonderful people, very, very wonderful. Smart, intelligent folks, totally dedicated. One of them was a Christian too, I want to say that, because I knew him as a brother. So, unfortunately, when you have somebody who is purporting to be a leader of a country and showing his allegiance to that country, and then doesn't show the allegiance, what conclusion can you reach about the allegiances? Are they real or are they phony? Is he somebody to be believed or not? Well, frankly, I'm telling you right now, I want you to know something. We know everything about Mr. Obama. All of those sealed records, every intelligence agency in the world has them unsealed. They've got them all. They know who he is. They know what part of Kenya he was born in.
Amen.
Mombasa, for those who want to know. He was born in Mombasa, Kenya. His mother is not his mother. The one with that male name, Stanley Ann Dunham, is not his mother. There's no DNA connection between the two. The people who were playing the role of grandparents were not his grandparents. We know that. And by the way, I don't think you've ever heard that even from Alex Jones, as far out as Alex is. And by the way, he phoned me up one day and said, "Jim, I'm in a mess. Can you help me out? Would you co-host the show for 3 hours with me?" Alex Jones. Do you know what he knew about Alex Jones at that point in time? Nothing. Alex Jones, you got a radio show? Okay, sure. I'll go on with you. And so I was on Alex Jones for 3 full hours, and I co-hosted. And the reason he said that he wanted me is because he wanted to have me on another show, but hadn't got around to inviting me. His assistant the next day says, John, says, he would like you to be on. And so the next week I was on, and then a couple of months later I was on. But if you check, you'll see that I've been on Alex Jones. Not that that's, like a badge of honor necessarily, but some people listen to Alex. And I have heard some of the information that he's passed on as being pretty interesting in terms of sourcing. So he has people who source material to him. Another person who had interesting sources, who was murdered, you need to hear this, is a man named Tom Clancy. And for those of you who do not know this, Mr. Clancy was administered a neurotoxin, the same neurotoxin that nailed Andrew Breitbart. And there was another man who was killed. These are necessary things for you to hear, because you need to know that people who protect America are being knocked off one by one. So please understand it. You need to know it. It's out there in theory, people are talking about it, but I'm telling you in fact that this is true. What happened to Michael Hastings? Anyone know what Michael Hastings actually was able to uncover? He was a reporter. He was able to uncover some things about what was going on in the White House. I'm not going to tell you what that is. I want you to dig. It's time you went on the internet. If you haven't gone on the internet to find out what's going on, look up Michael Hastings. You'll discover that he was killed. They say it was a car accident. But I want you to know the truth. It was a shoulder-fired missile that hit the front of his Mercedes-Benz. Why would we say, well, how in the world could that happen? Somebody actually stood there waiting for him? Yeah, he was told he had an appointment, so he was driving down the route to the appointment. And the guy was behind a tree. Now, the tree is significant because it plays a huge part in the story, or the development of the tall tale. So the person with the shoulder-fired missile leans around the tree, sights on it, radar guided, sights on the car. The missile strikes the car under the front engine, not the back engine, the front engine. The engine, blew the engine in the air and set it 150 feet back from the direction that it had come. The car continued on and hit the tree. So the report in the news media is that he was killed when he lost control of his car and it hit a tree. And nobody looked at where the explosion took place and the trajectory of the actual new missile, also called an engine, as it transited 150 feet backwards. So they're a little obvious. So we have also the death of Andrew Breitbart. Anyone follow Andrew Breitbart? Anyone here read his stuff? Yeah. Was he in connection with folks who might know some things? He was totally in contact with those kinds of people. So what do we know about Andrew's death? We know that Andrew was about to release material, and he went to a bar, and unfortunately he boasted in the bar that tomorrow I'm bringing down Obama. I'm going to present videotape. I'm going to present evidence that is going to bring back Obama. He left the bar at 11:30. Within 5 minutes of leaving the bar, he was dead. He barely crossed the street, and the guy that nailed him with the neurotoxin, by the way, this neurotoxin has one thing that is a telltale. Do you know what it is? You turn bright red. You turn bright red. It is made from the poison of an asp. Cleopatra? Anybody? Cleopatra? That's what nailed Cleopatra. This thing, in combination with another poison, by the way, it's not alone, in combination with the other poison, will make you drop like a sack of bricks. Boom, down you go. Witnesses who saw him walking said somebody brushed past him, and then he went down like a sack of bricks, straight down, boom. And when they got to him, his face was bright red. Okay, people who die of a heart attack, asphyxia, the color is purple, not bright red. So we know full well that he was administered with poison. Okay, very important to know. Tom Clancy, Michael Hastings, Andrew Breitbart. What did they have in common? Well, let me give you a little background first before I give you that. When I was 17, I was a lifeguard. I know I don't look like it. I want you to know, fat floats. Come on, guys. Fat floats. When I was 17, I was a lifeguard in a province in Canada called Quebec. And at this camp that I was at, it was a Canadian Sunday school mission camp called Camp Livingston in a place called Fitch Bay, Quebec. I was a lifeguard. I used to go, every morning I'd go and help Dr. Teal. Dr. Teal was from Kennebunkport, Maine. He was 95. He used to go fishing in the morning. Well, I used to come and start the engine of the boat because he couldn't start it. Didn't matter what he tried. And, of course, he didn't have a lot of pulling power. So here I am, I'm 17. I go and start the boat so that he can go fishing. So I'm coming along. I've done the morning swim. We've had the swim. I've done my duty. I'm walking past, and here are these two yahoos swearing away, trying to start this motor, right? And so I thought, I better go help. So I walked over and I say, hey guys, I know how to start this thing. You got to hold your tongue a certain way. You know that trick. So I helped them start it. They came back afterwards and they gave me some fish. And because this was the summer of 1967 in Canada, they were having this huge expo. And it's called Expo 67. Unique, eh? 67. Yeah. Canadians have a way of naming things. You know. Yeah, it's true. We have a Canadian here. Did you know that? Sorry, there's two in the room. I would like all the Canadians in the room to raise their hands, please. Oh no, there's 3, 4. Oh, 5. Wait a minute. Now you're looking at me going, wait a second here. Wait a second. How does this work? Wait a second. When I was 18, I was recruited for an agency of the American government. I was a Canadian, born in Scotland, of all things. Oh, hi. Came to Canada when I was young, but we also went to Grand Rapids, Michigan. I ended up going to high school in Grand Rapids and in Saranac, where I kind of got a bit of a reputation for being a weird Canadian American supporter. And like I was more American than the Americans, and I was trying to encourage, we had all sorts of arguments. They would, I was always the guy in support of America, and and other people would take the position that Canada's a better place to live. So, we'd have these arguments, and anyway, I kind of convinced myself that America was a really neat place, so I was kind of won over to the American side. So when I was 18, I went to, do you know about Bible schools? Yeah. Bible schools are funny and unique places. A couple of types of people go to Bible schools. One of the types is a person who wants to become more Christian, a better Christian, because they go in, they learn how to, read the Bible and do exegesis of, passages and stuff like that, other fancy words, 6-cylinder words, whatever. So they would learn this stuff at a Bible college. Now, there's another group of people who go to a Bible college, and they are called juvenile delinquents. So my parents sent me to my last 2 years of high school at a Bible college because I was a juvenile delinquent. So I'm not proud of that. That's why I bow my head and sort of go, well, I better tell you because you'll read about it somewhere. Somewhere someone will say, Garrow was just a JD, and therefore not to be taken seriously. So I ended up at Briarcrest Bible Institute. And one of the conversations I had, because here's what they did. They used to put the high school students in with responsible, mature adult students. And that was so that the responsible, mature adult students would have a good influence on people like scum-sucking pigs like myself. So I ended up at this table with this gentleman who was married. He was there to be a pastor. He felt God was calling him to be a pastor. And so I ended up chatting with him a lot. And he had a bit of an influence. And we talked philosophy, and he found out a lot about me. So for 2 years, he ended up being my table supervisor. 2 years in a row, like one year after the other. It's amazing the guy could stand me. So one day he says to me, Jim, I want to have a walk and a talk. Let's go out on the runway. Because one of the things that was going on there is they trained pilots, missionary pilots. So we had this huge facility. It used to be in World War II, it was a training facility where they had Harvards, the aircraft at Harvard, and they transitioned people into, flying bombers and Mustangs and stuff like that. American military as well as the Royal Canadian Air Force. So some of the best pilots in the world were from the Canadian Air Force, frankly. So he took me for a walk. I don't blame you for drinking a beer right now because I'm driving myself to drink. Anyway, so we went for a walk. We went for a walk up the runway, and he said, Jim, one thing I've noticed about you, you're very unusual in the way you think. But the United States government is looking for people who are patriots. And he says, I consider you to be a patriot, even though I know you're a Canadian. But I want to talk to you about something a little different. There are careers that would keep you out of Vietnam. Well, that was it. You mean you're talking to me about serving America without going to Vietnam? I'm interested. And then he said, and we would pay for your education. And not only would we pay for your education, but we'd also give you money every month. Now, I'm telling you, when he hit money, I was hooked. I was like really interested. It was $300 a month to begin with. That was a part-time thing. So, how did I know that? Well, he convinced me that was a good thing to do. He sent me to Minot, North Dakota, where we had one of those. Do you know what was going on in Minot, North Dakota? Other than 50 degrees below zero. That's where we had air bases and missiles and stuff, right? Oh, you know about this. Yeah. So they were waiting for me at the gate, and they let me in. That's amazing. They let me in, brought me in, and there was this 18-page document. I signed an oath. Oh, wait a minute. You can't work for certain government agencies unless you're American. Did you know that? You have to be American first and foremost. You have to have shown your loyalty either by birth or through some pledge and oath that you would take. So they made me an American citizen. Remember that pledge we just did here? That was the first time I actually read it. I read it because I didn't know it. So I read it. And that was after I'd already signed, and it was witnessed, and the judge put his seal, hang on, they got a seal of a judge on this document that says that James Garrow is an American citizen on that date. Now, that was a very significant time for me because the next thing I was being brought into through an 18-page document which included non-disclosure, it included an oath, and it included the many, and I'm not sure if any of you know about agency work with the American government, but they spell out the penalties for breach. These penalties are severe, including death. So I want you to know that when you sign on the dotted line for working with some of these things, it's not romantic. It's not let's travel around the world. See all the nice looking girls. It's there's quite a qualifier there in terms of death. So I got the chance to be part of that, and so they sent me to school. I went to high school, and I started really quickly earning my keep, because when I was 18, Canada had a communist prime minister. A communist prime minister named Trudeau, who was trying to build a relationship with Russia such that it would undermine the relationship with America. He wanted the alliance to look north and over the top of the pole rather than looking south across our border, our shared border. That was his commitment to the communist ethos. He saw Americans as being not free market capitalists, but I used this term earlier, but scum-sucking pigs. He hated Americans and showed it. I mean, there is a famous picture of him. Do you know what a single finger salute is? Yeah, he was on a train and the press wanted to speak with him. This is an American train, and he gave out the window this one finger salute to the American media. Were you aware that there was you knew that? Yeah. It's a famous thing in Canada, but most people don't know that it was actually given to American press, not Canadian press. Very interesting. So what did I do at that point in time? Well, I was asked, and it resulted in my arrest. So I fell into the hands of the authorities in Canada very, very quickly. It caused me to be thrown out of high school because I ended up in high school in Toronto. And I basically, I became student council president in a school I'd never been in before, and within a month of me getting there. And you thought the dieballed machines would switch an election result. Only certain people got that, eh? Okay, we'll have to talk to you about Diebold and Seidel and Chuck Hagel. So remind me to talk about that, will you? I don't want to go away without having, told you about the honesty of elections today. Because they're in total jeopardy. You may as well know that. I get funny looks from people. So, well, let's forget about the rest of my little story. Anyway, in the end, we ended up creating a political party in Canada, funded by, thank you, American taxpayer. We gave $1 million to a gentleman named Preston Manning to start a reform party in Canada. So this was an agency effort. One of those initial agencies, alphabet agencies, because I delivered the money. And in his book, which he had just completed at the time, he wrote to me, "Thank you for the loan." You hear that? I'm going to say it again. Thank you for the loan. There was no payback ever. We never got the money back. But what we did is we forestalled the movement in Canada, because another guy came in named Chrétien, who was very much the disciple of Trudeau. And he was. He spoke a little different language, English badly. And can you do a Chrétien? No, okay. He spoke out of the side of his mouth. One of these. He sounded like a hood. I was like, by gar, I'm a hood from Montreal. Take your head off. I can't do it, but anyway, that was him. And so what we did is then we put in place the effort in Canada to come up with a new party, a brand new party that would be right-wing, to forestall this effort to become a communist nation. I feel like I should be reaching over for food. So in the effort, we were quite successful. And let me tell you how successful we were. In the end, we had now, here, the end is today. Let's jump, fast forward in the picture. Early on, when Mr. Preston Manning was creating the Reform Party, the man who wrote the policies of the Reform Party was a guy named Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper today is the Prime Minister of Canada. Now, do you understand the relationship and how our success in that movement to forestall the movement toward becoming a communist nation is now paid big dividends. So now we have a right-wing group who are running the country of Canada. So we have great confidence that in the future we should be okay, except for one problem. We got Canada taken care of, and now we got a commie in the White House. You knew that was coming. Come on. Yeah. So, here's the difficulty. Not only is Canada now a safer place than America, we have a fraud, a total fraud, who is only one of 8 frauds. One of 8 frauds. Let me tell you about the other 7. In 1979, Vernon Jarrett, do you recognize that name? Yes. Vernon Jarrett wrote an article in the Chicago Tribune. Look it up. It's there. You can still read it. What is amazing is that all of America isn't up in arms of the success of that article. Here's what the article posited. The rich oil Arabs, Muslims, could buy into the black community and win the hearts of the black community, and thereby win them into Islam and Marxism. Vernon Jarrett was a Marxist. You should know that. His aim then was to ask the Arabs to fund activities in America that would see the undoing of America. That's what he wanted. So, that began a process of looking for likely candidates, black candidates, who might fit and might be engineered with a backstory. He was a cutout, basically, if you know the term, a cutout, a backstory that would provide him with everything he needed to win election. So where did they try it? Well, I should say this. Vernon Jarrett became then the funnel of almost $500 million in Arab oil money into America. 7 other black candidates were chosen around America. 7 others. So there were 8 total characters ready to move into a position where they might be elected. They might. All the money was not on Obama. In case you're wondering, it wasn't on Obama. There were these total of 8. Oh, by the way, any questions you have? I forgot to say that usually at the beginning of one of these I say, I'm kind of like ADD, which means, myself, if I have a good idea and a good question, I'd be sitting here, I'd be going...
We've got a Manchurian candidate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's...
I would like for you to finish the story you were just telling.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said there were 8 candidates.
Yeah, there are 8 candidates. The other 7 are dead. All of them have been culled. All of them have been gotten rid of. Why would they do that? Could it be that they didn't want anyone coming forward with proof that I was one of the one groomed and that I received $100,000 a year while I was in preparation in this? Do I have proof of any of this? Yeah? Do I have proof that the intelligence services around the world have the records of Mr. Obama? Yeah. Do I have proof that Mr. Hastings, Mr. Clancy, and Mr. Breitbart were working on a novel, a spy novel that would have exposed exactly who Barack Obama was? Yeah, I've got 5 pages of the book. Why do I have 5 pages of the book? Because I was referenced in the book under another name. And it has particular essence to do with Canada and China. How many people now know that I had schools all across the nation of China? You do know that. How many people know that I spent 45 years working with an American agency? How many people now know that? Okay, boy, some people didn't get it. I didn't see any hands there. Yeah, that back corner, we're having trouble with that back corner. You better watch those guys. So, you do know, well, they turned off the air conditioning, but they didn't turn off the fan. Wow, so I still have to yell, and I'm not losing my voice yet, but anyway, it was a nice idea. Should we get them to put on the air again? Because if we got the fan, we may as well have cool as well. Yeah, let's get the air conditioning. Oh, whatever you want. It doesn't matter to me. Are you frozen? Okay. Okay.
We do need a little air.
Okay, we just leave it?
Well, if they turn the fan off, it's going to get real stuffy if they don't have it.
Oh yeah, no, but they've already turned off the air, but they didn't turn off the fan, so we have the same noise. So let's have air and but not. You don't have to turn the temperature down. Turn it
We
up.
do need to be 1 degree.
He missed
cooler.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, we were so busy arguing, he missed it.
Can we have any of the names of some of those 7 guys?
No. Thank you.
I love
Okay, let's continue.
So these guys were only going to release a novel? That's all they had? Or they were going to just do a
No,
spy
it's
novel?
all, it was replete with proof. It was replete with proof. And the entire wad of it is gone except for 5 pages that I have. And it only references the stuff that I was quoted in. But having met Tom Clancy when he was 17, when I was 17, he was 20, I think. He was older. He went on into the insurance business. Did you know that's what he did for a living? He was in insurance. He didn't write books. He was an insurance dude. So we continued a correspondence together. And over the years, we talked. We talked about, what are you doing now, Jim? What are you up to? Well, you wouldn't believe it. I told you, but I'm doing some interesting things. So there's four books that he wrote that have little bits, little references that might be of interest. So you'll have to dig in, figure out what 4 books, and then figure out what might be a reference that he may have gotten somehow that might have referred to something that I might have been involved in somewhere. But let's talk about agency work. And let's talk about let's go for some specifics. Now, I'm an educator. Like my BA is from York University. My Bachelor of Education and Master's degrees are from the University of Toronto in Canada. It's a prestigious university in Canada. It really is. It's like Harvard in Canadian terms. Other people go to Queens and think that that's a big thing. But I mean, we spit on people from Queens. Queens University. So then I went to Columbia University and I studied, started in University of Toronto. I studied with a guy named Dr. Reuven Feuerstein. And in case you're wondering, who in the world is Dr. Reuven Feuerstein? Look him up. In 1948, when Israel became a nation, he started the school system. In 1948. Who was he? He was the disciple of a developmental psychologist in Paris, France, named Piaget. Anyone who knows psych knows that we know the development cycle of children because of the work of Piaget, who studied his own 5 children. So I studied under Reuven Feuerstein, and if you're wondering why that name should have a real familiar ring to you, but it never will because you haven't heard of him, is because the thinking skills movement came from Reuven's work in Israel. Reuven believed something. He believed that all children have not gotten immutable, unmovable, unchangeable IQ. They in fact have malleable, changeable, thinking skills that need to be developed. So he's the one who started the thinking skills movement in the world. Not only that, he thought that the instruments that were being used to measure were only measuring content of particular pieces of knowledge rather than the learning potential of a child. So he came up with a device that they use all across Israel that you've never heard of. It's called the Learning Potential Assessment Device. So they look at learning potential. By the way, has Israel ever come up with anything good? Do you know anything about healthcare? If you want to name the instruments that have been created and the developments in healthcare, it's staggering. How many Nobel Peace Prizes have been given to Israelis versus how many Nobel Peace Prizes have been given to any Arabs in the world? Yeah, there were 4 fake Arab awardings. But in terms of, there's like 240 scientists in Israel who've received Nobel Peace or Nobel prizes in their areas, chemistry, whatever it might be, physics. So Israel is a very significant nation. But let me jump really quickly because I know time is flying. This is a problem. Time tends to kind of I get tripped up on time. But what has Mr. Obama done recently? Sorry? Oh, he went to Martha. I just got what you said. Yes.
The funding of weapons in Israel.
took money away from Israel for arms.
And he's been so he's stripping away their ability to defend themselves. It's not that they're any good at defending themselves. They need us, don't they? Yeah. Well, we've seen their abilities to defend themselves and their willingness. And by the way, do you know what the percentages are that 25 tanks would shoot precisely on target every time they shot? And they would hit their targets every time they shot? It is impossible. In that war, 1967, in that war, 25 tanks did not miss once. What? Get out of here.
Angel power.
Angel power, yeah, it's called God. So if you think you're taking on the apple of God's eye, think again. It isn't going to happen. So Israel is a special place. But let me jump again. I'm going to jump a little further. Mr. Obama, let me kind of reference him in a bit of an oblique way. Have you heard of this Malaysian airline 370?
Yes.
Okay, 370. Do you know what was on 370? Oh, by the way, it didn't crash.
AIDS researchers.
Well, it had some of those too. Those are incidental. The AIDS researchers are incidental to the main reason. Okay, there was a development. Now I'm going to reference some scientists. 20 Chinese physicists. Notice it's not high-tech IT people. 20 physicists from China were working with American scientists. They had a breakthrough in light. They had a breakthrough in light. For a long time we've wondered, where will microwave technology take us? Where will it take us? Here's the breakthrough. Using microwave technology and light, a beam of light, not a laser, okay, a little different, not a laser. Using that beam of light aimed at a solid object, through something they found out in physics, they were able to penetrate the solid with the beam of light and have it come out the other side intact. Think about this. And I'm going to say to you, you think, beam me up, Scotty. Think of it.
What's the word for that?
Yeah. Beam me up, Scotty.
What's the word for that?
It's not transsexual, but nice try. I'm sorry, I'm making fun. Sorry. You have to forgive me. So what we have now is that development. Now, what happened right away? The Chinese decided, whoa, look what we just did. And it wasn't long, we're talking hours. They were on a plane with the equipment itself. They stole the equipment. They stole all of the little computers and the little, what do you call those, flash drives? They had it all with them. They got on a plane. They transited onto Malaysian Airlines 370. And they were making off with that amazing technological breakthrough back to China. And did you know that our security people didn't even know that they'd taken the equipment? They didn't even know. So the next day, these guys are on like their third airplane. Malaysian Airlines, they figured they were, clear like crazy. And then we happened to have two jets. Two jets. Fully armed, ready to roll out of Diego Garcia. How many people have been to Diego Garcia? Okay, there's two of us in the room, but I want you to know about Diego Garcia. I can say this with absolute certainty. Diego Garcia is owned by the British. Did you know that? Diego Garcia is rented by the Americans. There is a base there. There are two functions of the base, two major functions, two organizations that are there. One of them is not the Navy. So the jets made sure that Flight 370 landed at Diego Garcia. And how do I know that it landed? Because the one day that I spent in Diego Garcia, the fella I had coffee with at the break in the morning, because we were in training, the break in the morning, and the guy who had coffee with me because he was really interested in the break in the afternoon, was the same guy who went and pushed the stairs over to the aircraft and went up and opened the door. And the guys with the guns came after him. So what happened? They took off the 20 Chinese. They took off the equipment, and then, you listen to this, talk about service. They cleaned the washrooms and emptied the toilets, you know, the function that you would have normally. They were fully equipped to deal with this kind of circumstance. Then they re-provisioned the jet. They put the other passengers back on. They put the 2 pilots back on. And they flew the jet to Karachi, Pakistan. Yeah. So, you now know what happened. I'm waiting for somebody to say, Karachi, Pakistan? Hang on. Yes.
So where are all the people that were on the jet when it
Well, they're all dead.
Well, he took it out.
I thought you said they just got back on the plane and...
They did, and they flew to Karachi, Pakistan. But you asked where they are. And, oh, by the way, how do we know that it went to Karachi, Pakistan? Because I got a phone call from Tom McInerney. He's a general. You're impressed so far. I got a call from Tom who said, this is where they went. You know, let people know. And by the way, other people that I've talked to recently, Paul Vallely is the one who verified the fact that what I was saying on radio about the litmus test of the military leadership as to their loyalties, whether it was the Constitution of the United States, the rule of law, or to Mr. Obama himself. I'm the one that broke that news. I broke the news on January 21st, having received a call from Admiral Jeremiah Denton, an old friend, who knew he could trust me to get it out. Do you know who Jeremiah Denton is? Jerry Denton died this year. He just died a little bit ago. Great loss. Longest serving prisoner of war in the Vietnam War. Wrote a book, When Hell Was in Session. I spent many a night in his home. So I want you to know, he phoned me and said, Jim, I'm going to trust you with a big one. Can you let America know what's going on with the senior leadership? Because a purge is coming. It started, yeah. So you know full well. But I want you to know, I was right there. Now, what did that do for me? That made me a marked man, put an X on my forehead. But you know how long it took Obama to figure out that I worked for the federal government of the United States? You know how long? It took till September 30th. I mean, he's right on top of stuff. Yeah. So let me tell you about Chuck Hagel. Chuck Hagel was the president of a company named Diebold. He had just been awarded the contract to provide the machines, the election machines, the recording machines that would record your push button. Chuck Hagel, who is now the Minister of Defense, he's now in charge of defense of America. Are you nervous yet? So the other thing is, you got Chuck Hagel there, and then you've got, what do you think? Did you know that machines of that sort run on software? Do you know who owns Cytel, the company that provides the software for the elections? George Soros? Are you confident right now? Okay. Do you know about the 4 counties in Ohio that had? Yeah, 4 counties in Ohio. It's the only one reported. But do you think it happened all across the nation? The answer is absolutely yes. You pushed the little thing, the little button, and you pushed it for Romney, and guess what happened? It switched your vote to Obama.
You know, all the complaints went in that direction,
Never in the other direction, exactly right. So I want you to know, if you're expecting that there be honest elections, I'm going to make a prediction. I want you to know, here's my prediction. You ready? And I don't predict things. I don't predict the future. I'm not a prophet. There will be razor-thin victories from now on. Because that's, I mean, the press will go along with it. You know, they're neck and neck. You know, and if the Democrats pull it out, or if Obama pulls it out, if there's ever an election again, it'll be in favor of the Democrats. How many people believe, you actually believe this in your heart, that there will not be another election for president? Are you there yet? Okay, I would get very nervous about it because people are talking. The process is moving forward to ask Mr. Obama to run again. Now listen to this. Wouldn't that scare the willies out of you if he ran again? But what if there was an event I'm going to refer to that already happened? Let me tell you about the evening of October 7th and 8th of 2013. It's a very significant night. and one I gotta get the message to you very clearly, because if you don't know about it, you need to know about it. An order went out from the President of the United States to 3 individuals.
What year was that?
2013, 7 and 8. And take a look about an event called the switch of polarity of the sun. It was supposed to take place in that week. Just want you to know. And so every 11 years, the sun cycle causes it to switch polarity. When it happens, there is a massive EMP that comes out and usually strikes Earth, frankly. 22 years ago, 2 cycles ago, the province of Quebec in Canada and the eastern seaboard, New England, the electrical grid was devastated. It took a month to get things running again in Quebec, and I believe it might have been even 6 weeks before everything was running again in New England. 6 weeks, people were without power. That's the cycle of the sun just doing what it does normally. But now you've got the President of the United States asking that 3 nuclear weapons be moved with a total breach of protocol. Do you know if you're in the missile group and you're in anything to do with nuclear, did you know that if you miss putting your initial in a box, your career is done? You're dead. That's it. Not dead, I'm sorry. I gotta be careful in the context here. But you're done as far as your career is concerned, because they take it, the protocols are so strict, they take it so seriously, you won't get away with it. So, what happened that evening? The President asked that 3 nuclear devices be moved. What did a general of the Army, a general of the Air Force, and an admiral of the Navy know? They knew, based on what was being asked to be moved and the trigger mechanisms that were asked to be moved as well. By the way, you know that the trigger mechanisms are never kept with nuclear devices? Never. They're always a long way away. They have to be put together on site before they're loaded onto a missile. Each type of nuclear weapon has a collar, a particular collar that fits it, and only it, to attach it to a particular missile. Well, guess what kind of collars were asked for? It was the collar that would attach it to an 800-mile short-range missile. Excuse me? 800 miles, nuclear. The weapons themselves were not bunker busters. They weren't bunker busters. They were EMP creating. You know we have them, eh? We have them. So here's what he was about to do. He was about to launch missiles into the upper atmosphere above the United States and cause an EMP that coincided with the timing of the sun's natural reversal polarity causing a huge EMP. What would have happened? I want everyone in this room, buy this book. It's called 1 Second After. Buy the book. Scare the willies out of yourselves, and I mean it. You need to read it because it's an accurate fictional portrayal of what would happen if an EMP happened over North America. That means the electrical grid goes out. That means every computer system, no matter what it is, ceases unless it's been hardened. You've heard of Faraday cages. Look it up. So I'm asking you to write down something. Write it down, Faraday cage. And if you don't know about it yet, and look up hardening, and you will see how vital in terms of importance this is, that you do this for the protection of your family. How many people here, how many men, knowing that your family was about to be wiped out, would stand by and do nothing? There's not a man in the room who wouldn't. So I'm asking you to do something. I'm asking you to do a little study. And this study will scare the willies out of you, like I said. But from it, you'll understand the importance of preparing for this event. He tried it. These 3 decided, nope, he's not going to get away with doing this. Once they figured it out, they said no. The weapon that was in control of the admiral, he put onto an aircraft and sent it 560 miles southeast of Charleston, South Carolina, and detonated it in the deep ocean. The U.S. Geological Survey said there was a seismic event that evening. But if you look at the chart, if you look at the readout, what does it show? It shows a nuclear spike. None of the developmental waves that would be necessary and shown in a seismic event. So none of that was there. Who spoke to that issue in the world? 2 people. I did. I put it out on my Facebook page and said, this is just what happened. Who backed me up? Vladimir Putin of Russia. The only other person who spoke to the issue was Vladimir Putin. He asked the question, what is America doing? Detonating nuclear devices in the deep ocean. 560 miles southeast of Charleston, South Carolina. He wondered what was going on. So that's a fact of how close we came to seeing the destruction of civilization. You'll discover something. You read that book, know this. Within 2 years, knowing what would happen through privation, starvation, murders, executions, cities would become tombs. So what we know is that 300 million of 330 million Americans, that's including the illegals, I have to count them, sorry, would be dead within 2 years. Within 2 years. That's the extent of what the treason, let's use the right word, that's the treason that was going to be inflicted upon us. The deadly treason. So if you haven't heard this, you need to hear it. Yes, sir.
Tell us what you know about chemtrails.
I'm going to be speaking at a conference August 29th. Anyone know a man named Dane Wigington? Okay, look him up. Dane Wigington. He's written the authoritative book and study on what's going on with chemtrails. And he's a scientist. So read him. I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just referencing something. I'm going to be speaking with Dane, but what I'm going to do is see that your group gets whatever Dane publishes and his lecture that he gives about it. I will send a copy to your leader, your peerless leader over there. So Mike will have it, okay? You get it to Mike.
That last name again.
Wigington. Wigington. Yeah, Wigington.
The other two nukes. The other two nukes.
Yeah, the other two nukes. Can I ask you a question about your competence and your sense of things? If you knew that patriots had stopped the use of nuclear weapons against you as a citizenry of the United States, would you feel confident if those people somehow still had in their possession those two nuclear weapons? Would you be happy? I'm going to suggest you should be deliriously happy. You should be deliriously happy. Now let me tell you why Mr. Obama is not deliriously happy. He actually indicated it, and I'll tell you where. Mr. Obama had a press conference in New York City, and here's what he said. The question was asked, aren't you a little concerned about Putin moving Russians into the Crimea? His answer was, I'm more worried that a nuclear device go off in New York City than I am about Vladimir Putin in the Crimea. What was he doing by saying it that way? He was telegraphing what may happen. So if a nuclear device, spread this out, Tea Parties, I'm out there telling Tea Parties everywhere. Tell folks that what he is telegraphing is that he might use a nuclear device against New York City or another major center and blame it on guess who? Who are the terrorists that we all have to be worried about? Us! Us! We're the terrorists. Anyone here ever served in the armed forces? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, right on. Well, you're a terrorist, didn't you know? Hey, there you are. Yeah.
Party members of terrorists too.
I heard that. I heard that. This man is being a pickle. Good. That's a good question. Good question.
So I'm moving.
Well, he's not sure whether to move to Canada or Russia. But here, again, speaking of that, I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, and I know. You're going to pay the price now. Mr. Romney has bought 100 acres in a place called Grand Bend, Ontario, Canada. Just a little bit north, a couple hundred miles north of the border. He has one there. I went and climbed the fence and saw the place that, sorry, not his. I went and saw the place that Oprah Winfrey bought. Her Frank Lloyd Wright mansion in a place called Courtenay, British Columbia. Courtenay, British Columbia. She was brought by the richest man in Canada, a guy named Jimmy Pattison, on his yacht, so no one would see, on his yacht, up to Courtenay to meet with the real estate people to buy the property. Why is Why is Mel Gibson buying a property up there?
Get the hell out of here.
Why is, you want to know that the list is unbelievable of the who's who in the know of the Hollywood community and some of our politicians. Why do some of our senators now own property in Canada? Okay, you need to ask these questions because it's a valid question to ask. The answer is obviously they want to protect their families. What do they want to protect their families against? The very thing that will wipe out 300 million Americans. They don't want to be part of that. Does Mr. Obama have a place somewhere in a mountain, ready, totally provisioned for years of sustainability? Does he? What's now under the White House? What's under the White House? Would it be beyond the stretch of imagination to imagine that if Mr. Lincoln had tunnels dug under the White House in order to facilitate his easy escape, would it be possible that Mr. Obama, with all the money he has, that would be your money, not my money. Oh, why not my money? Well, sorry? Sorry? Oh, Toronto. I live in Toronto, so I don't pay American taxes. Are you kidding? I wish. No, it's because I refuse to pay taxes. Which means that somebody should be arresting me right now for refusing. By the way, is the Income Tax Act legal? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to get a feel for the crowd, you know. Now that we're near the end, I want to figure out what kind of people you are. So far, I'm liking you a lot. So here we have, Mr. Obama has had under the White House, very deeply under the White House, he has a little rail station where he can get on a little high-speed emergency exit. Do you remember there was a movie once that had the president kind of trapped on an aircraft and they actually shot him out in this little thingy, but he didn't go, you know. But it was a nice idea to get him out of Air Force One, right? So he has an escape plan and a high-speed rail link underneath the White House now. Were you aware that that's what all that digging was? No, because everyone was busy looking at the digging at the White House. What no one saw were miles away the trucks coming out of a ramp, you know, taking out stuff. You know, stones and rock and rubble and whatever it was that they excavated.
Where does that train go to?
That's a really good question. That I don't know. I'm lying. I do know, but I can't say. I can't say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it hook up with Colorado?
I can't say. Okay, anything further, I can't say. Any questions right now before I do kind of a last thing? Yes?
How are we going to protect our data?
Oh, you need to back up your data and have Faraday cages. That's it. And by the way, Faraday cage, go online, look up Faraday cage, Google it.
How do you spell it?
F-A-R-R-A-D-A-Y. F-A-R-R-A-D-A-Y. Faraday cage. Now the easiest Faraday cage is to take a steel garbage can. And there is a galvanized. And there is a man, a physicist, who will show you how to make a beautiful Faraday cage. And you know, you can put a lot of stuff in that. You know, a few computers. But you do realize that if you have solar collectors, think that they're going to work afterwards, think again. They're not going to work. The switching, it's not going to work, it's all going to fry. Anything to do with computer chips, yeah, all of them are going to be fried. Anything that's not Faraday cage, protected, hardened, is toast. You know, it's just toast.
You know, in your car too.
Your car, yeah, so transportation dies. Think of all the airplanes falling out of the sky. Yeah, something like that goes off. That's exactly what it happened.
Get an old vehicle.
Yep, actually pre-1970 for sure. And you got, I love Volkswagen Beetles. Easy to work on. Did anyone see the book?
Get a Beetle and move to Canada.
No.
And live in a van down by the river.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and grow a beard and long hair. Until Obama is out of office. Oh, you knew that that's why I have this? Oh, did anyone see, if you look at the book, my book, you'll see that I'm a short-haired dude. I'm a short-haired dude, and I have a short beard. And when I let the news out on January 21st about Obama, I took an oath that I will not cut my beard until Obama is either carried out or removed as President of the United States. Okay, so I hope I'm in for a very, somebody said that to me earlier. They said, I hope you have to shave your beard real soon. He knew. That was kind of cool. Any other questions? Madam?
Can you tell us about HARP, the weather modification?
I cannot talk to the issue of HARP and weather modification. Please check up on Dane Wigginton. All I can say is Dane and I talk on the phone. Dane is aware of a lot of things, and he's not afraid to say it, and he's still alive. I'm going to see him when I'm speaking at a conference with Cliven Bundy on August 29th. I'll have a chance to chat with Dane because he's one of the other speakers. Now let's talk about Cliven, and let's talk about federal lands and what's happening. And I want you to know something. Right now, there is a misunderstanding about the indebtedness of America to China. And it's a smokescreen because you need to know the reality. Earlier, it was reported that 6% of our national debt was held by China. Then it was up to 12%. Then it was put at 14%. The actual fact is this. China has been actively going to other nations and buying up our debt from the other nations. They have now gotten 56% of our national debt is held by China. 56%. Now you check this out. It'll be hard to get the information, but if you want to know a little more about it, there is an economist in America named Chris, C-H-R-I-S-S, Street, just like street. Okay, so look up Chris Street. Very soon there's an article coming out by Chris and I together about this development, because this is the scariest thing you've ever seen. Because that means that right now, they can pull the plug. Now let me tell you why pulling the plug is a certainty. Here's the certainty. Mr. Obama has pledged the natural resources on federal land in surety for our debt. Now what does that mean? As you know, when it comes to repossession, possession is 9/10 of the law. So that means they must have boots on the ground on our national lands in order to claim it. How many Russian spies are in Canada? Canada. I don't know either. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. How many Russians agents are here in America? You're right, there are 35,000. 35,000. How many Chinese agents are there in America? There are 260,000. 260,000. What do they look like? They look like university students, college students. They look like a business person. They look like a tourist. There are 260,000 of them. Why do you think a Chinese student would get a visa, which is one of the hardest visas in the world to get, to come to America, to study? Why do you think? It's because they have purposes other than just studying. They're ready for the day when they get the call to go and stand on their assigned spot on federal lands to take over. And what they're after are the natural resources. That's what they're after. Why did the Cliven Bundy thing mean so much? Well, let me tell you about Cliven Bundy's ranch. There's only a small tip of it that actually touched the federal promise. But it was there. And the Chinese want all of their promises met. All the American promises met. So Cliven was in deep danger. But let me tell you further, because I got a heartwarming thing here. I want to talk about patriotism. I want to talk about Americans and Cliven Bundy. Cliven is not a very articulate man. Okay? He's not. He's a rancher. Okay? He's a farmer. He's not a public relations man. He isn't one of the slick politician types. But here's what we know about Cliven. He is a patriot, and he doesn't like being pushed around by bureaucrats, especially when he thinks, which is true, that the Bureau of Land Management is an illegal entity. They're performing a function that is not within the law at all. So just because you're a government official and you wave a magic wand and say, I have authority to do something, doesn't mean just because they give you a badge, doesn't mean you can do it. Okay? Yeah, you can't do it. So why is Cliven important in the big scheme of things? Because the Chinese were promised that land, that little tip. What's important about Cliven Bundy's ranch? It's one of the areas that has rare earth minerals in it. What do the Chinese need big time for computers? Rare earth minerals. It's one of the things that they need to create computer chips. Okay, so we know that. We know that Cliven has it on his land. So let me tell you about a wonderful moment. And I want you to think back, because you probably all saw Cliven Bundy, and you saw a group of people, and you saw a guy named Dennis Michael Lynch, a photographer, who went up and kind of waved and said, you know, you're not going to shoot these people, are you? You're not going to shoot these people, are you? And I want you to think of the moment when you saw, because everyone saw it, you saw the cameras pan back to the bridge, looking over that other bridge, and here's Dennis Michael Lynch down there waving his hands and everything, and people are getting really nervous because they think that the people behind the barricades are panicking. Well, let me tell you why they were panicking. When they were pulling back the camera angles so you could see all that was going on the ground, they showed you the snipers sitting on the other bridge. You know, and they were lying down, sniper, you know, the triangle position, and they're taking beads on people. You'll see, and I just saw it the once, but you'll see the one major sniper that they're looking in at, and you see him pause, and you see him put his hand down from the rifle, still holding it here, reaches in his back pocket, pulls out his cell phone, listens for a minute, and goes, you can see him thinking. He puts the cell phone back in his pocket, he closes his rifle, puts the safety on, and he takes it apart. In the meantime, while he's taking it apart, he's dialing in another number. And he's phoning the other 6 snipers that were there. They were circling the group, including Cliven. There was another guy zeroing in on Cliven. Do you know who called him? Nope. Well, yeah. I think he's a member, actually. The man who has the record sniper shot in the world. And he told that man, who he knew very well because he beat him in competition time after time. And he said the names of the 7 others who were there, each one of them zeroing in on them from behind. All right. Do you get it? Are you getting it? Yes. Are you getting it? Okay. We had our guys, heroes, the best snipers in the world, aiming at those guys, and boy did they beetle out of there fast. Did you notice the whole stand down took place like boom? And everyone's going, what happened? Why did they give in? They gave in because everyone knew where this was going to go. Real fast. So now you know the truth of the Cliven Bundy thing, and I'll be with Cliven on the 29th, and we are going to have an uproarious laugh together. So you, yeah? Get out. Really? When did you hear this?
Wasn't he killed on the range or something?
Oh, no, that's Kyle. No, that's another guy. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's another guy. No, this is the record holder. Kyle was a sharpshooter. He was a sniper, but no. Yeah, he was killed by that crazy, the guy with PTSD. Yeah. Another unfortunate thing. Or a planned killing. Yeah, one or the other. I don't put anything past. Any other questions right now that I can answer? Yes, ma'am?
How can you travel around safely?
Oh, you haven't seen my guys. You haven't seen my guys, yeah. I got some of the best in the world. Cost me $560,000 a year for protection. And this is a bulletproof vest. Just let you know. So if you're going to do the headshot, do it. You know. It's not that easy to get a headshot. Not through, glass. And on angles of glass. These are all angles. Sir?
You said Canada is a place to go to. What would be another place?
Could you speak up?
Now, the question was, if Canada's not the place to go, where would be another place in the world to go? Well, it depends how communistic you are. But a place to go is China, and a place called Hainan Island. It's Hawaii at 10% of the cost. You can buy a condo, a 3-bedroom condo there for $40,000 US. So most of you can go in with cash and buy one. I have one there, but I bought that early, so I only paid 10.
You rent it out?
I'm sorry? Do I write it down? Yes, I do, actually. You know, it's so funny. Yeah, I do. Yeah, give me your card. I'll get my property manager on you. Yeah. 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 So can you imagine investing $10,000 and getting $2,500 a week?
Great return on your investment.
That's great, and only you in this room can afford it. Hey, so any other questions right now? Sir, you had your hand up a while back.
No, that was with this thing about the Chinese. This is one of the reasons why they have to take the firearms away from all the people in the United States.
Yes.
Because when the Chinese come in there to take their land,
Yeah.
the people of Missouri or wherever that area is that
Yeah.
they want.
Yeah, Nevada. Well, there's many areas.
There's a lot of areas, but
Yeah.
they'll never take that. And what they'll have to do is take it by force.
Yes, they will.
And
Can I,
and the only way they can do that is to disarm America.
That's right. A suggestion. This is a very serious suggestion. People ask me, should we be buying gold? Should we be buying silver? And my answer is no, don't do that. Buy the most important thing you can possibly buy, and that is guns and ammo. And I mean it, because when they try to collect it from everyone else and they get many, what is going to be the most valuable thing for you to protect your family? It's going to be guns and ammo. So buy everything you can. And by the way, distribute it. Don't have it in a safe or in your house. You know, I think all of you people are bright enough to know better, right? Because where are they going to look? Right? In your safe, in your house, right? At your cottage, on your boat, on your person, wherever. No, get it distributed out. And by the way, trust. Oh, here's a thing from a movie. You ready? Trust no one. What movie was that from? Was that like a Star Trek? No. Anyway, trust nobody. Don't share it with your wife. Don't share it with your kids. And I mean this, because they no, they will use your wife as a lever against you to get information. Like, do you think we're now dealing with pretty people? These people are not carrying purses. Well, one of them is, but he's at the top. Sorry. I had to say it. Come on, I had to say it. Sorry. Yeah.
I've heard of rumors and seen things in the past several years about all these FEMA camps around the country.
I only know 5.
I have no idea what he said.
I only. Oh, sorry. The question was how FEMA camps. You've heard rumors about FEMA camps around the country. Yeah, there are 5 that I know. 5 camps. But let me ask you a question. How many of those camps do you think are on the edge of Chinese land? Oh, sorry, American land that was promised to the Chinese. Every one of them.
And connected.
Every one of them are connected. Sir?
I'm from the People's Republic of New Jersey originally.
That's a great communist place.
Never been back in 10 years. I retired, crossed to Delaware, now it's like, answer the question. By the Dwyer Air Force Base out in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, there's a huge setup that we used to fly over. And it's like like you say, a World War II concentration camp with all the streets cut out of the pine barrens and everything. And it looks like it's just waiting for someone to put buildings up in there, in the middle of the pine barrens. One right there.
That's not one of them.
There's not one of them.
That's not one of
What
them.
is that? That's there.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, that's just, well, you're sneaky. You're one of those. You're one of those truth teller people. They look, you know. This lady just said that I probably do know, because she was looking really intently at my face, and she saw the fact that I lied. Well, you didn't accuse me of being a liar. You just said I probably do know, sir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if Obama's intent on taking America down, and he was ready to go with EMP and that was foiled, what is your gut saying would be the next choice? Could it be pandemic? What's your gut tell you?
Well, let me ask you about the Clowen-Pivot strategy of overwhelming systems. Would it seem to you that the porous border on the south that is now allowing jihadis in like crazy might be part of that? Could it be that they're bringing diseases in with them? I'm just asking questions. I'm not making any suggestion that it's happening. Could it be that the jihadis that are coming in, we already have been promised that they wouldn't be there? And here's one of the reasons, because you know that 5 jihadis were released recently by Mr. Obama. He promised that they would go to the nation of Qatar, right? Qatar. And they were going to be held where? in prison, right? In prison. Okay, not this past Monday, the Monday before, in a mall in San Antonio, facial recognition programming nailed, put a hit on one man, the bomber. And you need to go looking at those 5 guys, because I'm not telling you who was there, but the bomber was identified in San Antonio in a mall. What do we have in our possession? We have a list of 103 malls that are being targeted. How many jihadis do you think in the last month have managed to come across the border? Yeah, thousands, exactly right, thousands. Now, Nairobi, Kenya is a mall, there's a mall exactly like an American mall. What happened last year in Nairobi, Kenya, in that mall? It was attacked, and it was a practice run for what they're going to do to American malls. They slaughtered 150 people. Then it took the troops 2 weeks to dig them out. 2 weeks. Do you know that that whole scenario was recorded and sent out live? Because they had cameras, just like we do, security cameras all across that mall, and it was being recorded. All of the jihadis learned what? Many, many lessons. They learned ingress and egress, people attacking. They knew kill zones within. I mean, they knew it in theory, but once they saw it in action, and they saw defensive posturing, people coming in to attack, and how to defend. So they knew a little bit, but they learned. It was an encyclopedia about terrorist knowledge for them. So now they know, now we know that they've got 103 malls targeted. 103 malls have been studied. We know that the bomber himself has been in San Antonio, scouting out one mall. The bomber who's supposed to be in the country of Qatar, according to the president. Would you believe that the president is not acting in the best interest of America?
Yes.
Would you believe that the Muslim president of the United States is actually working to the best interest of his Muslim brethren? Okay, take it to the bank. Everyone in the international community in the world is laughing at us like you would not believe. How stupid can you people be? The man is a Muslim. What are you doing? Take him out. This is what they're saying to us.
Why does he stand in front of a Muslim prayer curtain instead of an American flag?
Well, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. How many times have you seen him give the Pledge of Allegiance?
None.
You have never seen him give the pledge. Never. His wife, yeah. I mean, it was bad enough that she was caught on camera and then caught on the microphone saying, all this for a flag? Yeah. I mean, how many hints do we need that we actually have traitors in the White House? How many hints? Now here, let me tell you about the hope of the nation. Do you realize, I know this is like the stupidest thing to say to a group of people, but you ugly looking, ignorant, this is words that other people use about you, ugly looking, ignorant, clinging to your religions and guns, Tea Party types. I mean, you stupid people are the hope of America. Now, I know I just insulted you, sort of. But think about it. You are the hope of America. But how are you going to react if you know that right now? If I just said to you that you're the hope and you've heard about all the bad stuff, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do, sir? Yes, educate people. They're going to laugh at you and they're going to call you a conspiracy theorist. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to get this little film and you're going to trot it out and say, watch this guy. Because he's not insane. He spent 45 years. I've been certified mentally ill. No, I haven't. And I'm speaking the truth because I will not lie to you. And I won't lie to you about the danger we're in. It is the most horrific we've ever had. Now, let me tell you about the most dangerous time. This is why it's so important. Why do you think I'm out here doing this when I could have my feet up at my cottage? I have an 8-acre island in Georgia Bay in Canada. I mean, I got boats, I got my kids and my family, they're all there, enjoying it. Why am I not there with my feet up, suntan? Because I want to remind people what patriotism is all about. And if it's not me, who's it going to be? It's got to be somebody. So I've never been the one to say, well, let him do it. I've always been the one to kind of go, oh, okay. I go and do it. So I'm out talking the talk, walking the walk, and then here's what I expect from you. I want you to get up when you're finished here, and I want you to go and start talking to your folks, your people, your friends, your neighbors, because that's your territory. That's your kill zone or your protective zone. That's it right now. And I want you to tell them about what we've talked about today and prepare them. When they say, well, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, that's their expression. If it does, what should we do? Tell them, buy guns and ammo. And by the way, if you've got stupid friends, like really stupid friends, buy guns and ammo for them. You will save their lives. I mean it. You will save their lives. If you have extra cash, I'm telling you, when the computer systems go down, guess what happens to your balance in the bank? It goes to zero. You realize that, don't you? It goes to zero. What about a reset? Oh, have you ever heard that there's a reset coming of the valuation of the American dollar vis-a-vis the Chinese renminbi? You know what the bargain is? The deal? The deal is that it will be, right now, it's 6 renminbi for every American dollar. 6.1, I think, is the deal today. 6.1 renminbi to buy an American dollar. You know what the deal is between the Chinese and Obama? It's that there will be a valuation of 1-to-1, equal. Now you think about this. You have any Chinese things in your house? Every one of you do. If you have any electronic components, every one Chinese parts. Yeah, including this. Yeah. Ni hao, wa, wazir Jim Garrow. Sorry. I just kind of escaped. Oh, and I just said, hi, I'm Jim Garrow. Yeah. So, everything we have today in electronic components are all, including our cars, have Chinese components. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that this might be the case, but if you were a really smart person and you were plotting the demise of a nation, and you knew that almost everywhere you have planted in equipment, computers, just everywhere, aircraft, you have chips. You know, chips are little teeny things, eh? They can be super miniaturized now. And you have an off switch, and all you have to do is go click, and the off switch turns everything off. Everything. And you can't turn it back on. Now, if you were, dastardly, would you do that? And the answer is, of course you would. You're not an idiot. You'd do that in a heartbeat. Well, the Chinese have it. We've known it for years and years and years. So I'm trying to scare you for a reason. Reality is a scary thing, and we're in the worst days of our lives. And let me tell you the most dangerous period of time coming up. Between November 4th and January 20th, the most dangerous time in American history is upon us. Because Mr. Obama will know whether he lost the Senate. Even with Diebold and Seidel and all of that, he will know whether he lost the Senate. If he loses the Senate, he can be controlled. Now, a petulant child, which he is, in other words, a spoiled brat that he will use that opportunity. You used to call it the lame duck, right? The president would be a lame duck. No, that's the time when you've got the most insecure period of time in all of American history. If he's going to do it, he's going to do it then. So I'm just letting you know. Have I prepared? Yeah, I've prepared.
You go to an island off China.
Well, I have a Hainan Island. Yeah, I have a place there. I have my place with my island in Georgian Bay, just slightly north of Romney's. Yeah.
How are you going to get there?
Hi, Romney. Yeah.
I read an article today that this administration was making a deal with the Republican Party that they're saying that they're going to hand over the Senate to them if they promise not to impeach.
He suggested that there's a rumor out there that there's a deal between the Republicans and Obama that they will hand over the Senate to the Republicans if they promise not to impeach Obama.
Which implies fraud.
Yeah. Oh.
Because we're probably set up to take over the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, and that's the point. We are going to take over the Senate.
That implies that they can make it to where they don't take over the Senate.
Yeah. We're going to have a majority of 5 seats. That's what the predictions are right now.
I keep reading about Russians on the land too. Now, I'm kind of confused because they seem like we're at odds with them, and what is their purpose
Okay? Quote, please let Vladimir know that when this election happens, I'll have more flexibility.
Yes.
Do you remember that? What flexibility was he referring to? Anyone know what flexibility was being referred to? No. But think about the Crimea. Here's what the experts told me that they would have done. Here's what the experts said the president should have done. And it's called an easy solution to a major problem. Here's what he should have done. He should have brought all the natural gas producers in America into the Oval Office and say to them, fill up those tankers, liquefy your natural gas, take it over, and undercut, and make sure that Europe is free of the boot heel of Putin. And he could have done it easily. It was an easy solution. And so all the strategists around there going, wait a minute. Like that was so obvious and easy. What is going on here? There's another agreement in place. And, take that to the bank. There's another agreement in place. So, folks, we have been undone. We have been stabbed in the back. We've been lied to. The deception, the delusion that we have been party to. And notice I say party to, because if you know better, hey, let me bring the Bible into this just for a second. If you know to do good and you don't do it, that's sin. So there's a lot of us sitting here who knew stuff and didn't share it with our neighbors to help protect them, and that's called sin. So confess your sins, and He's faithful and just to forgive you your sins and to cleanse you from all unrighteousness, including unknowing treason to the country. I quoted scripture, can you believe it? And nobody came charging through the door to shut me down. Hey, is this Texas? No, it's not. It's North Carolina.
Any chance that the CIA will take some kind of action?
Mr. Brennan, need I say more? We have a Muslim. We have a Muslim in charge of the CIA. You realize that our eyes and ears around the world have been closed? Our ears are deafened and our eyes are blinded all across the world. And it's quite deliberate. Quite deliberate. And by the way, are our armed forces in good shape? Yeah. Would that be deliberate? How about all his buddies who've gotten trillions of dollars of dollars for all of their stuff? But that's called, from Valerie Jarrett says, that's payback. That's payback for loyalty. So, again, what's the positive word? The positive word is people like you are around. And you're not stupid. Now, you may be ugly, but sorry. No, but seriously, you're the best hope of America. Now, don't get nervous yet, but maybe you should be nervous. Seriously, if you're the best hope, that means you better be better organized than you are right now. You better be more determined than you are right now.
Amen.
You better be more dedicated. You better be more patriotic. And you better get your friends out here. Like, this is a small group of people. I understand this is a large group of people, actually, from this group. The Amarillo Tea Party had 4 times their record when I came to speak, because a few people had heard me on somebody's show anyway. I think Hagmann or somebody anyway. And when I came there, boy, were they ready. It was like I was in charge of water and people were thirsting to death. Boy, they wanted it. And they were dedicated. And you know what happened at that meeting that was really impressive to me? People were trading business cards and arranging to have meetings with each other. Because you can't do it alone. You can't. So get together with somebody of like mind and start planning something. Even if it's just to get together and talk about the crazy dude who came in and spoke. Even if it's that, get together with some people and start thinking about planning to protect your family. Notice I'm not saying protect the nation. No, protect your family. Protect your neighborhood, protect your friends. Have a bug-out place to go. When you read 1 second after, if you've still got hair, you're going to be determined. Seriously, it's a scary thing.
Let's bridge this age gap.
Yeah. Oh, it does.
We need to get our young people involved in this.
Do you hear this?
You know, look around the room.
Yeah, gray hair.
How many of us are here that are under 25 years old?
Yeah, that's true.
Not many.
Very few. This is an excellent point. This young man is pointing out the fact that look at the hair color in the room. Where are the young people? For the future, I mean, the heavy lifting is going to have to be done by people who can do heavy lifting, right? And that means some young people.
You live locally around here?
No, I don't. I live in Canada. Remember, I'm a runaway.
Are you going around the country?
I am.
How long are you going to be in this area?
I'm here for another, wait, how long am I here, Mike?
Another day.
Yeah, don't I have to be in,
On Saturday.
yeah, and then Withville, did you call it? Withville. And August 29th, I'm speaking in Redding, California at a conference. And then I'm in Seattle on the 1st of the month. And then from there, I'm back to my home to recover. It took me 2 full weeks to recover after the western side, and I only spoke 16 times. And I'm here, actually now I'm going to be doing 18 total here before I go home. And I was wiped out, I got to say, I was really wiped. And I'm on my Goldwing, I'm on my, on my bike. Well, because, any ride's a good ride.
Say your trick out there.
No, the white one, no, I have a purple one. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Why do the powers that be care? Why is it so important to, I can't think of the right word, to restrict religion, to restrict Christianity?
Oh, it means loyalties. Split loyalties. You're either loyal to God or you're loyal to Obama. Every dictator has done the same thing. They've demanded loyalty to them. And so what to do? They wipe out the Jew, they wipe out the Christian, for the obvious reason that he doesn't want the competition. Neither does Obama. Yes. Sir?
You said something about maybe we'll take over the Senate.
Yes.
Okay. What do we do with the paranoid schizophrenic president in the meantime?
You mean the narcissistic delusional? Oh, that one too. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, you know what? Impeachment is not a stupid game. It isn't. It is something you need to look at. But then there's another reason for removal. You do realize that the Sergeant of Arms can, on the command of the House, can arrest the President for criminal activity without impeaching him. He can be arrested. Okay, but
You don't want to shake your own boat and get water inside the boat.
But I'm telling you the fact. It can happen, and legally it can happen. Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Sir?
I thought impeachment is not the right thing. I thought if you proved that his birth certificate is false and he was born in Kenya,
It's already been proven.
well, there's been no action in the
Well, Orly
Justice Department.
Tates has taken it as far as she can. Orly phoned me for help. Here's how desperate Orly became. She actually phoned me. Now, seriously, that's desperation. She phoned me and said, can you, with your contacts, get the records from the Social Security Administration to prove that Harrison J. Benil, the real possessor of the Social Security number that Obama uses right now, he's using that. And that's fraud. That's fraud. That's criminal fraud. Can you get your people to dig it up? Here's what I did. I got in touch with people I know, who know people who know you know that. Anyway, I got in touch with people to look, and they searched for the record of Harrison J. Benil. Guess what's missing? His birth certificate is missing. His Social Security assignment, you know the paperwork? Because from way back, it's one of the first guys who got Social Security numbers. It's missing. Now, who would have thunk? But we tried. We tried for Orly, because Orly's the only one who's been granted standing in a court with respect to Obama himself. She's the only one who's gotten it. So was Orly Tates working with Breitbart? Yes. Was Orly Tates working with Joe Arpaio and what's the other guy's name? Sorry, I mentioned it. Just went. Mike Zullo. Sorry, Mike Zullo. I can't forget him. He's the principal investigator for Joe Arpaio. Are they working together? Yes, they are. Is there anything you can do to help? Yeah, fund your Tea Party. If you're short of funds here, I mean, Goodness gracious, look at you. I mean, you're an affluent bunch. You are. You got money. So dig it out, put it to work for your nation. If you spend $100 to go see some stinking opera, and for me it's stinking opera, or a hockey game is worth it. But you know, cough up the money. Come on, in this room, you got a few $1,000s to help fund your activities. Because local activities are one of the best things you can do. It's the most successful. And where local works, guess what? It works state. You'll end up working state as well. So you guys, if you have to take back something, take back your neighborhood, take back your locality, but come on, you got money. Do you think God gave it to you to put it in a mattress? No. You know, use it. Come on, use it for the nation. We need it to happen locally, so you guys need to cough it up, use it. You know, you don't need that new car. It's going to depreciate 25% in the first year anyway, right? So take the 25% that would have depreciated because you didn't buy the new car and give it to the Tea Party. Is that a hard sell or what?
Hey Jim, what is there anybody at really high levels that are on our side that
Yes.
are in those positions ready to do the right thing?
Yes, there are. All is not lost. Remember, the disinformation campaign through their bought and paid for media is well staged. I mean, they're doing it as pros because they are pros. And so they try to discourage. That's the best they can do. The best thing they can do is make sure you people feel like you're failing. Like every effort you put forward is useless. You want to know something? That's the move of desperate people. Because they know the majority of the country, when it wakens up, they are toast. And you are going to represent that whole movement. You're it. The Tea Party's it.
So if they can have covert operations to take out Breitbart and all these people are being murdered and stuff, why couldn't some CIA officials take out that Muslim leader of the CIA?
Okay, let me say this. In October of this year, one other significant death took place, and that was the assassin. The assassin for Obama and Jarrett and Axelrod. That one man was taken out. Now, I'm going to tell you this. He had an Irish name, and he was not a nice Irishman. Most of the Irish guys I know are pretty nice. He was killed. And that sent a signal to Mr. Obama about his own vulnerability. Do you know the paranoia of Obama about being assassinated? He's had dreams about this. He's had nightmares. He's had dreams about, for his whole life, he's had dreams that he'd be assassinated. His whole life. Do you know there's a verse in the Bible that talks about, you know, somebody else taking his kingdom? Do you know about that? No? Yeah. Do you know the verse? I don't know the exact wording, but it says something along, somebody brought this up at the last meeting. They said, you know, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about God taking away a person's kingdom and giving it to another. Oh, yeah. And so that's a prayer. There's a prayer you can have. Ask God to do that, because He did it already. Ask Him to repeat. Ma'am?
Jim, that was what I wanted to remind all of us about, because I picked up real strongly that this is a room full of God-fearing people.
Yes.
And I agree with 100% of what you've said in the natural doing. But we've got to remember that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Amen. You hearing this? You hearing this? This is about the spiritual warfare that this is. Because it is. It's on a level that's spiritual.
And when we pledged a while ago, under God, that needs to be in bold letters, and He's the one that's doing this.
Oh, very important. Please take this away from this meeting. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you about. Please understand this. Anytime, stop referring to God. Do you hear me? I know that sounds like sacrilege. Stop referring to God. Start saying the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the God, right? Not the God, the amorphous God that could be Allah or could be... No. Stick it to them. Tell the truth. Get your neighbors excited about the concept of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Say it. Hey, can you do it? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Say it again. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Mean it.
His name is Yahovah.
Yeah, there you go. And that scripture is in somewhere in Prophets.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem HaMashiach Yeshua, Baruch Hashem HaMashiach Adonai. Sorry, that's Jewish, or Hebrew.
Oh, what was that?
Jesus is God, basically.
Oh, that's what you just said in Hebrew?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
The reasoning behind not only the Democrat Party, but the Republican Party hating Tea Party.
They'll get over it.
I have to say something. I've got to know Al Weatherman, who's the campaign manager for Dan Forrest, after he came to the Tea Party meeting, and he spoke out against Islam. And I learned a lot from what he had to say. I mean, he reported he spoke out of Al.
Yeah.
And you got to know that he is the campaign manager for Dan Forrest, so they know. And he was told to be quiet, but I talked to him at a fundraiser for Edgar Starnes, and he says, I've been telling people all you got to do is just go look in the paper. Everything is caused by the Muslims, and that's really all you need to know. But I got to get back involved in it. And he's been talking to the brass. He talked to Michelle Balkan, and had a private session with her. And what I found very interesting at this fundraiser for Edgar Starnes and Dan Forrest was the lead speaker. I had my suit on, which I never wear. This is how I dress all the time. And but they were introducing me as the Tea Party Republican, and that was to Dan Forrest, and I was talking to Al Weatherman, and that was to judges and the General Assembly. They all shook my hand. They all looked at me in the eye and they asked me questions.
Wow. Well, to reference what you just said about Muslims, the greatest danger for America is the Islamist, and there are no jihadis, there are no Islamic extremists. There are Muslims, and they all believe the book. The Quran says this, the Hadith says this, the Surah says this, and you know what it all says? Slit the infidels' throats, rape their women, rape their children. It's in there. It's in there. So, guys, we're not talking about some religious thing. This is an ideology based in hatred and wicked to the nth degree. So,
I just have a question about what's going on in Ferguson right now. Can we expect more of that because of what you just said?
She asked the question, what's going on in Ferguson right now, and can we expect more like that? Okay, can you tell people who don't know what's going on in Ferguson?
About the police brutality that's been happening. It's become more prevalent as it's gone on, but people are just starting to tape it and actually record it, and things are just starting to get out.
And the undeclared.
Police officer shot an unarmed young man, and he had his hands up and everything, and they shot him. And now there's a bunch of protesters out in the streets with armed tanks, militarized police with crazy amounts of weaponry going against them.
It's an undeclared police state.
There is a police state. They have declared martial law there.
Yeah.
Where's this again?
In Ferguson, Missouri.
Ferguson, Missouri. Yeah, after the shooting of that young man.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain something that's been happening. Did you remember there was a concept for a long time called neighborhood policing? Do you remember this? The whole idea was to get people to understand that your neighbor was the policeman. He's not some boogeyman from far away, and he's not a danger to you. In fact, he is your friend. So what Mr. Obama is doing is making sure that there's a break between the concept of your friend and neighbor, the policeman, and the policeman. So now they're militarizing police. They're providing them with MRAPs. They're providing them with basically military-grade weaponry. Okay, all of it to suggest a breach between the public and the police. There's no longer that connection. So psychologically, what do they know that they can do? They know that they can separate you from the notion of being a good citizen. If I as a policeman know you as a person, I can say, well, I know Ruby. She's not a danger. We know her. She's been in our community. She does Girl Scouts. She's been, in the Women's League in her church and all this kind of stuff. They want to break that. They want to break the bond of friendship. And that's the best way to do it. Break the bond of friendship between people and turned the police into a military force that obeys only one person, and that's Obama. So your police, your sheriff that you elect, for example, if you elect your sheriff, he can be turned into a weapon by the federal government. So it's very, are you a sheriff? Oops.
No, but I ran for it here in Wilkesboro, so that was one of my things, that they are trying to keep the people down and not get that camaraderie.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I'm trying to build back.
Good.
United we stand, divided we fall.
Well, I got a word of advice for you, lady. Win! Win!
I'll say,
Yeah.
if there's a person in this room that
That's
doesn't
the military
believe,
concept of divide and conquer.
Yeah, exactly.
if there's a person in this room that doesn't believe
years back.
Yeah.
that they're being militarized, you just make your way over to the sheriff's department and you see the weaponry that
They've been given,
All the
yeah.
weapons for that have been from our
Yeah, but we
RAG
don't have enough
coming
money
here.
to secure our schools.
You're right, you're right.
That was his thing. We don't have enough money to secure our schools, and I said, yes, we would if we quit spending on stuff that we don't need.
Yeah. Well, let me.
Ask him, is he gonna take away your guns? He's asking. He will not answer the question.
He will.
Well, let me.
Right now.
Can I bring up something?
I personally talked to our sheriff of this county, and he says before he'll go collect somebody's guns, he'll go home and quit.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay?
And that's the wrong answer. The answer is, he needs to take and make his sheriff's department stand up, because he is a constitutional officer. He's supposed to protect the people first, not the government. That's his job.
Actually, you're talking about the same thing. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. Okay. Excuse me, sir. Sir, argue later. Argue later. Argue later. Yeah. Thank you. Here's something. I want you to think about the Nazis and what they did. Think about the Nazis and the pattern of behavior. What can you expect today from our now Nazis? We know if I make a demand as the leader to you, a reporter. Oh, there was a reporter for a short period of time. She came in just to hear, enough for her to go and write her negative article.
Yeah.
And a picture of the crazy Santa Claus dude they invited to come in. Are the Tea Party living in Fairyland or whatever it's called? Anyway, I can see the headline. It'll be fun. Send it to me, please. Sorry?
Did she have that victim look?
Oh, the victim look. Yeah. That'll be next. Sorry, what was I going to say? It was really important. Oh, Nazis. Okay, so what did the Nazis do to people who were reporters? The first thing they did was knock on their door and say, "This is how you will report." And then when they didn't, they disappeared, or their bodies were found. Okay? Keep that in mind. So there is an expectation by the rulers that you will toe the line. If you stand up at a public meeting and ask an embarrassing question, do you think your car will be vandalized? Expect it. Do you expect that something will happen to your dog or your house? Expect it. But here's where you, as Tea Party people, you need to work together. You got to provide protection to one another. That's the people who won. Now, you're not going to run away. I hope not. You're going to stay, right? You're going to stay where you are and stand up. Get armed and tell people how you'll respond if you're threatened. And let the police know, and the different levels of police in your state know about the threats that you're under. Because this is still a free land. We have liberty, and we have the right to association. We have the right to bear arms. We didn't lose it. Okay, but protect it. Be smart about the way you do this. But know this, they will threaten you. And they'll threaten you in the best way they know how. And do you know how the best way is? Your children. Have you seen what's going on with schools and Common Core? And how dare you stand up about Common Core, you ignorant people. You don't know what's best and what's right for you. I'm sorry, I'm acting when I say that. I'm not saying it to you directly. But that's the kind of tactic that will be used against you. And they'll win. Now, one of the best ways to protect your children is to know what's going on in the classroom and go there and talk to the administration. That'll only work so far. The other way is to send your kids to Christian schools. The other way is to homeschool them. And I've been a great supporter of homeschooling, by the way. You better know that right now. In spite of the fact, when I was the principal of a teachers' college in Canada, oh, I didn't tell you, I have a sordid past. Like a really sordid past. When I was the principal of a teachers' college, one of the things I encouraged our teacher trainees is get to know people in your community who are homeschoolers. Encourage them, if you're a phys ed teacher, to send their children to your phys ed class. Only for your phys ed class. Invite them. Now, why would a teacher do that and add to their load? Why would they do it? Because that is community service. And teachers need to remind themselves that they're servants of the community. They're not masters of your children. A huge difference. So that's another thing you can do, just locally, just throwing it out there as we're wrapping up. Sir?
What kind of weapon would you advise that we get? I've only got a little rifle.
Okay, home protection is a shotgun. End of story. That's what you need, a shotgun. Yeah, shotgun every time.
Okay. Not an R-15, AR-15.
Oh, no, what in a house? We're talking home. I'm sorry, we're working concentric circles. Okay, sorry, defensive circles.
Okay.
Inside your home, it's a shotgun.
Okay.
You move outside, you need a longer range weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, if all you have is a personal security item, namely a pistol of some sort, okay, that's personal security. Fine, great, do it. But when it gets right down to it, what you're going to need is something for each defensive zone. That's what you're going to need. So, guys, you've been in the military. What am I talking about here? You know.
That helps.
It really does. And by the way, if you do not have a guerrilla warfare manual from the Second World War, get it. It was produced in 1941. It's about that thick. You can still print it off, and it's the beginning of the lessons of guerrilla warfare. So, in the end, if everything goes to pot, you're going to need to know how to fight a defensive guerrilla war. Did I say defensive? I'm not a defensive kind of guy. I would be very, very aggressive. I would take it to them every time. Amen. Any other questions, or can we wrap up? Sir?
Did you hear that Americans are going over to Iraq, fighting with ISIS and coming back? I heard Frank Wolf said that Thursday there were 150 fighting in Iraq, American citizens coming back here.
Yeah.
And I also heard that 100 came Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So there's no law against it. All came to the FBI was monitoring them, and that if they tried to recruit somebody, they would be arrested.
Can't hear.
Hey guys, these folks around you can't hear when you're talking. Here's a point I want you to make. I want you to make. See, it's getting late. I want to make. In 2002, I was asked to go and investigate a person, an American citizen, and he was in Shenzhen, China. And I was asked to go and meet with him, find out details about him, because he was starting to do a business relationship with a military general of the intelligence service of the People's Liberation Army, and he was an American civilian, American citizen. This man happened to be a Muslim Marxist himself, and he played jazz piano in the Marriott Hotel in Shenzhen, China. So I went and met with him, and I sat there and drank in the bar and got to know him a little bit. Well, the bar people playing the piano, and in China they just ignore them, right? They just ignore them. But it's something that they provide, entertainment in the bars. So I got to know the guy. I hired him. He did a few gigs for parties for our staff in our schools in Shenzhen. And then, of course, I went and I met his new wife, a Chinese. He just married a Chinese girl. And but I want you to know his name. His name was Mark Okoth Obama DeSanjo. D-N-E-S-J-N-O. DeSanjo. Who was he? Well, in the backstory of Mr. Obama, the backstory is that Obama has a father, a Kenyan black father. That's the backstory. This would be his half brother. What's interesting is that he looks very much like him. The two look very much alike. That's a problem. So what we discovered was that this gentleman was Mr. Obama, let's call him, Mr. Obama was partnering together with the General and the Intelligence Service to open up a chain of internet cafes. Have you heard that the Pentagon has been attacked through the internet? Have you heard that the State Department has been attacked through the internet? Have you heard that businesses and the stock exchange and all of that?
Anonymous.
Many of these attacks have started from these cafes that are owned by a combination of this General and the Intelligence Services and Obama's supposed half-brother. But I just want you to know the extent to which this Obama family, is spread out and doing things that are anti-American. I just want you to know that. Now, I only say that because I happen to be the guy. And by the way, my lawyers said, yeah, you can tell. You can tell. Because, this is out there because it was reported in the Chinese media. It was reported who I was in the Chinese media, fully. So the South China Morning Post. So if you Google my name, you'll find that there's a report about me investigating Obama's half-brother.
I just wanted to add what I was talking about earlier about ISIS being recruited.
Yes.
3.5 years ago, I was living in Rockingham, North Carolina, and I was doing a lot of posting on Facebook about the Muslim infiltration and all that, Muslim Brotherhood. And anybody could see my stuff, no privacy. And I started getting these posts, we are watching you in Rockingham from Muhammad and Abdul and all these people. So I went secure and I made it only friends. But I had given a Jesus video to a guy that worked in a convenience store, and he came to the gym one day, and I was in the whirlpool, and 4 other guys speaking the language other than Spanish that were dark-skinned got in the whirlpool with me, made me feel very uncomfortable. And we started having a conversation over a period of about 2 weeks, and he invited me to go to the mosque. And I said, well, will you come to church? And he said, no, I couldn't do that. Finally he said, you should go to Yemen. I said, why? He said, you would like it. You would like it. And what was going on in Yemen at that time, Al-Qaeda had moved there, and that was their training place. And we had pictures of 10,000 of them walking around in circles in the desert. So, who could I tell that to? I didn't feel comfortable calling CIA or FBI. I didn't know because I didn't trust the administration.
Well, I wouldn't trust the administration, and especially at the senior levels of any agency, any government agency supposedly serving us as citizens. They're all replete with Obama files, replete with commies. Marxists are moving in, and so are Muslims. And all at the behest of Mr. Obama as he strips away the things that are essential to Americanism. They're pulling it all away. And it's a multi-layered attack. But it's very real. Thanks for sharing that.
When I got my top secret clearance when I was in the Air Force, I was a communications computer systems operator. They asked me if I had ever gone to a communist bloc country or had family and all these. They spent $100,000 training me. And if I would have said yes to some of those questions, I would have never gotten a clearance. But there are people who contacts family in the Muslim Brotherhood that are all the way up in the White House. And they should have never gotten clearance.
Valerie Jarrett? What do you mean Valerie Jarrett? What do you mean Valerie Jarrett? Did I say Valerie Jarrett? By the way, did I bring up Valerie Jarrett? Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah.
Who was her father?
Yeah, who's your father?
Who was her father?
Her father.
Don't worry about that.
Oh, one of those, yeah.
Yes.
No,
You got
you're
Eric
right.
Holder, he's in charge, and he'll take care of all that.
Yeah, right.
You know all that.
Yeah, sir.
I have a question about the disinformation being spread. As far as your social media, the problem you had with getting the information out and the feedback you had from people, there is an organization out there that identifies themselves as anonymous.
Yes. Yeah.
And they meet online through anonymous chat rooms, through
People look
torrents.
just like you two.
Exactly.
But the hair is longer.
They don't get out too much. But what can they do through social media anonymously to keep us safe? Can they?
Yes.
Or is that just them putting the information out there anonymously?
There's a separation between older folks, you've already identified this, right? Between older folks who get their information from a variety of sources, and you know young people get it through the net.
Yeah.
You know, they're not watching the garbage on television. But they do put out really good information. Do people know who Anonymous is?
No.
Okay, Google Anonymous, and you'll discover there is one person, no, it's a group of people who are putting out information. And the information they put out is oftentimes right on the money. And sometimes it's a little strange, but for the most part it's on the money. And I mean, everyone reads Anonymous.
They're a group of computer hackers.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, she just mentioned that they're a group of computer hackers. But there's a variety of ages, by the way. I know there's one guy who's older than me, is part of Anonymous. So it's a good group for you to get information from, and if you have information, get it too. If you don't know, by the way, here's my email address. I want you to get it. And here's my Facebook site as well. You're going to find a lot of... Oh, how many people read my stuff on Facebook? Just a couple? Oh, wow. Okay. Do you read stuff?
No, I said I didn't know about you.
Oh, okay. When you read my stuff on Facebook, you're going to go, oh, wow. Why didn't I get this early? Seriously. I've had that reaction everywhere. So my email address is Dr. J. Garrow, just lowercase, DRJGARROW @yahoo.com. Dr. J. Garrow @yahoo.com. If you look on Facebook, look up Jim Garrow or Dr. Jim Garrow, just DR, Jim Garrow. And what you'll find is I do analysis of articles almost every day. Right now I'm not doing anything because I'm off on the road and I'm concentrating. But I do analysis of articles. I throw out my Christian witness. That's constant. You know, it's there all the time. I make no denial of who I am as a person. But I also share other information that comes to me because now people realize that I've outed anyway. People know, so people in the know send me material all the time. And once I have vetted it, so you have to understand, I filter stuff like you wouldn't believe. Before I put it out, I have to know for sure, through sources that I have, that it is verifiable and it is true. So if you see it from me, understand this. Unless I've really been fished in and I've been lied to by somebody I know, you'll see what I know to be true. And so that's what I try to do. Sir?
Dr. J. Garrow, that's one word, lowercase.
Yes, it is.
At yahoo.com.
Yes, sir. Dr. J. Garrow at yahoo.com. So look it up. You'll find that there's, oh, and by the way, there's people out there who say Jim Garrow's a fraud. You're going to see that. When you see it, understand the major person. Two things. Everything references an article from a paper in Canada. It is the largest article they ever did on anybody. You know why they did it? I was elected in my little town in Podunk, Canada. I was elected as a trustee to the school board. I was elected to the school board in my area. The homosexual lobby wanted total access to grade 5 students. And they said that they didn't want any principals or any teachers in the room when they made presentations. I got a little nervous when I heard that. I then went and dug up from Toronto, the AIDS Committee of Toronto. That's the big source of all this stuff for homosexual activity in Canada. And I went and got the stuff that they were giving out to kids in grade 5 in Toronto, took it to my school board, put it on the desks for a school board meeting, and that evening they censored me for putting porno in front of them. Now, I got on the record that you are voting then, here's my statement, you are voting then to approve, censure me, but to approve this material to be given. It's bad, you know, you want to crush me, but you are going to allow grade 5 students to have no principal present in violation of the law. You have to vet curriculum in Canada, the principal's responsibility, and have no teacher present, which is a violation of the Education Act in Ontario. There must be a teacher. And so that there can be full and open dialogue where kids can talk about their sexuality. You should have seen the porno stuff. Unbelievable. So, I got censured. From that, the lesbian editor of the local newspaper who found out that I'd stood up against that agenda. Oh, and by the way, when the AIDS Committee was looking for money, I donated the largest hunk of money. Personally, because I don't want people to die of AIDS, especially innocent victims who get it through blood transfusions. Okay, so That's my history. They then published this article, which everyone quotes as the truth about Jim Garrow. Okay, so you'll see that. There's a gentleman named Brian Stye. Brian Stye says that, well, he implies that I'm a fraud, but Brian Stye is a man who advises people to do adoptions in China. He charges thousands of dollars for this advice. Here's what's happened since 2006, because I was effective in what I was doing in China, in circumventing the racket that the adoption industry is. You'll spend $25,000 to $40,000 US to adopt a Chinese baby girl. It is a racket supported by guys like this Brian Stye. He will fish you into believing that if you go over to China on your own or work with an agency, there's a possibility that the agency will take your money and defraud you. He's made lots of money out of the fear. But here's what's happened to the adoption racket in China. In 2006, there were 8,500 adoptions that came to America. This past year, there were 1,200 adoptions coming to America. Now, do you know what happened in the meantime? Pink Pagoda Girls, if you want to find out about it, there's a book here you can buy. And the money goes to the Tea Party, by the way. But I intervened in saving baby girls. The story's in the book. And by doing it, we reduced the numbers of adoptive babies for America by a ton. Now there's only about 15% of what there were going to North America. Now, you may say, well, that's cutting off the chance for them to go into a Christian home. Well, frankly, what we're doing is putting Chinese baby girls into Chinese homes with their own people. And we let God take care of the consequences. Now, we don't actively seek Chinese Christians, but they actively seek us. So there's a lot of that happening. So this man, his business has been hurt. Huge, huge loss of business. So he blames me, and of course the attack is on. So I want you to know, think about the source of attack. Why would people have this, they want to put me down? Well, putting me down just means that somehow they get revenge or they somehow support their own business. So that's what you'll find online. And I want you to know this. We've saved, I can say this because my lawyer said you have to stop saying any larger number than this. We've saved 50,000 baby girls at a cost of $1,000 a piece. So if you do the math, that's $50 million. Where did the $50 million come from? From the profits of our schools. So in a sense, the elite of China are paying us to save baby girls. And that's the long and the short of it. Are we saving babies? Yeah, big time. Big time. You'll find out a story of two of our kids, who were killed. They were murdered by the mafia, who were involved in child trafficking, buying and selling babies. And they sacrificed their lives to save a baby.
Cricket.
Yep,
Cricket.
that's it.
Okay, he does have books. They're $20 if you guys want to buy one, and I'm sure he'll sign it.
Yeah, but the money goes to your Tea Party.